about where you're coming from?
Oh, you bet. I'm Executive Director of the Office of Communications for Business and Community Engagement for Dottie. And the work that we do is provide outreach into the communities and community engagement just like this. So we have an opportunity to hear from the community, engage the community, the work that we do both in projects and in programs, and be able to accordion that information from the community to project managers and planners like Geneva, and then determine what we can do and take that back to the community. I'm a former Denver City Councilman at large, and my claim to fame is Michael Hancock, our mayor, used to be my intern. So there's my background.
Okay, thanks, Tim. So, you know, we have a little bit of time. We have about half an hour in the breakout room. Tim, thanks for the introduction. I do think it would be nice for us just to all go around. I think I know many of you, but we may not all know each other. So I will start. My name is Geneva Houghton. I'm a senior city planner with the Denver Department of Transportation Infrastructure. And I'm going to hand it in my screen. It's right there. I'm going to hand it over to you, Tim Bowers.
Hi, Tim Burse. I chair the Honey PCD committee, Planning and Community Development Committee. We look at land use and transportation issues within the Highland neighborhood.
Thank you. Michael?
I'm Michael. I've been in the neighborhood for 25 years or 30 years, and I'm on the Planning and Community Development Committee with Tim, and I'm a specialist in sustainable urban neighborhood design.
Ron? Ron, do you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the group?
Oh, sorry, is that Ron Lund?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm Peter Ronlund. I've been at the corner of 35th and Tejon for 23 years.
Got it.
With my concern with the loss of parking.
And Gina. We have two Ginas, actually. Gina with the cool background. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Gina Carosa, and I live at 34th and Vallejo. I've been here about 13 years.
Great, thanks. And Kurt, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kurt Helly. I'm at 35th and Tejon, and I've been here for 15 years.
You guys all know each other because you're neighbors. But, and I'll, on my Brady Bunch screen, Chandler, I'm going to go to you.
Hi, I'm Chandler Romeo. My husband and I own a property at 35th and Tejon. I think I'm in the wrong group. We're a dividing line. We're on the north east corner. We own the property and there's a bridal shop in there. We've been in the neighborhood since the early 80s.
You were free to stay in this room. Mm-hmm.
Pardon me?
I would stay in this room.
Oh,
how are you? If you own the bridal shop, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yolana.
Hi, my name is Ilana Paget. I'm with OB Consulting.
Thank you. It's kind of hard to hear you, Ilana, but she's part of our project team. Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie Mendelson. I live in the neighborhood at 34th and Tejon.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. And then Seneca.
Yeah, my name is Seneca. I live at 36th and Tejon.
Thank you. And Porchi?
Yeah, I'm Porchi Lovely, and I live at 35th and Tejon.
Thank you. And Gina Volpe?
Hi, I'm Gina Volpe, and I work for Councilwoman Amanda Sandoval.
Tim? Oh, and Tim, you are muted.
Boom, thank you. Tim Geeson, 36 Vallejo. I love beer, great haircuts, wedding dresses, tamales, and I love bicycles.
And Scott Burton.
Scott Burton, Senior Planner with the Curbside and Parking Group, part of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure with the City of Denver.
Okay, great. So thank you so much. That really helps me to kind of get to know some of you better. And I am going to share my screen. I have just a couple of slides for us to go through.
Geneva, you're muted, I think.
I am, sorry about that. Are you all seeing normal view or presenter view?
Normal.
Good, okay, great. So we are going to be focusing right now tonight on 32nd to 35th. If anyone needs or wants to go to any of the other breakout rooms, you can, you just have to leave and then join the main room. So kind of building on what Chris and I were talking about a little bit earlier, this portion of Tejon will primarily be a protected bike lane. However, at the very southern portion of it, between 32nd and halfway through the block on the 3300 block, for that it would be a bike lane, and I'll show you that. And we know that in this particular portion of the Highlands, we have a lot of small businesses, we have a lot of single and multi-unit residential, certainly restaurants and bars and other great places to go. So what we have in terms of our existing conditions is it's a 40-foot cross section. We currently have parking on both sides and then a 12-foot travel lane. And our proposal between 32nd and 3326 is that there would be a northbound bike lane with parking on that northbound side. So they're on the eastern side of the street, and then a bike lane on the western side. And then moving north, that is where we would have increased protection for people biking. And so that would include a vertical element and a buffer for both northbound and southbound bicyclists, meaning that parking would be removed on both the east and west sides of the street. So what that looks like, and so that's concept design. I also have it in a CAD layout if you all are interested. Definitely want to hear more from folks. And just so you can kind of see what we're talking about in terms of on-street parking removal, those blue dots are where existing parking would remain, and the red is where parking would be removed. So I would really love to hear from you all your thoughts. Where are people using to load? If you are with a business, what are some of those peak business hours? And then really opening it up to conversation. And I like to see your faces more than I like to see the screen. So if it's okay with you, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and then I can pull it up as needed, but I would rather it feel a little bit more like a conversation. So with that, I'm gonna open it up and see what folks are thinking.
Looks like Michael has his hand up.
It feels very formal to call.
This is Michael Favell at the southeast corner of 35th, and Tejon is an urban mixed-use building with ground level retail, currently a very popular yoga studio. And so retail areas need to have on-street parking in front of them. And that building doesn't have on-street parking on the north side, thanks to the fire department wanting to have a huge tarmac for fire trucks to park when they put out a fire. So you really would damage the usability of the retail space there and its benefit to the community if you got rid of the on-street parking on Tejon in front of that building.
I would kind of echo that a little bit, probably traveling further north up on Tejon. There's some restaurants we've experienced over the years increasing parking pressure. And I know that the ultimate goal is that people aren't going to drive cars, but the reality is that they do. And a lot of people come to this neighborhood it is walkable, but a lot of people come here, and there's a lot of parking pressure. I would say up to 38th.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. This is Porchi. I've lived in this neighborhood for 20 years now, on this street, and with the addition of the building where the Freya project is, they take up more, like, you've already, with the addition of the median there, you already lost parking. So they've already lost parking in front of their building. And then we don't have it on the 35th Avenue side because of the FACP. And then, with the new restaurants that have opened up at 36 across from Lechuga's, the Chicken Rebel and Mythology, they all need parking. They don't have enough parking. That's because that's the way the city planned it, and to not require enough parking to support businesses. If you're taking away that parking, you're going to drown these businesses. And I'm a resident here. Like, they're all going to move to the side streets. This is not an acceptable solution for residents, for businesses. And I think for cyclists, especially with that median there, it's an extremely dangerous intersection. The data that you based putting the median on there was years old at the time. Like, this is just extremely frustrating.
Got it. Thanks. Yeah, definitely hearing a lot about that 35th and Tejon intersection, and there being a lot of land uses and needs for that particular area. And thanks, Porchi, for the I think that median in particular when we chatted yesterday.
Yeah, and I sent you guys pictures because I said, have you seen it? And you said no. And I'm like, well, here are people running over it. I've been in a car, I wasn't driving, but ran over it. Like, it is not safe.
Yes, and I have seen it. I just hadn't seen the tire marks that you were referencing. Mm-hmm.
I know you had seen the median. I'm talking about the tire marks where it's like, it's not providing the safe refuge that was anticipated.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit more about kind of some of the safety. Like, how does it feel traveling on Tejon right now and right in that area, and some of the safety concerns that people are experiencing?
There's a lot of activity because of the businesses, and I guess one of my questions, I understand that's a main street, that's a popular street, but why would you put bikes there? One of the things I don't understand is why the bikes are being put on some of the major arterials and minor arterials for cars. And I ride my bike a lot. I ride west, and I never ride on the busier streets, even if they have room. I don't ride on the 46th bike lane because there's too many people and too many cars there. So that's my question to you, is why would you put them on these streets that are already congested with automobiles, parking especially, and trying to go in and out of businesses?
I mean, as a cyclist, I would agree with you. I would rather ride a different street, but that street is Tejon's already currently zoned for cyclists. It's striped for or it's got the markings on the pavement for cyclists. So functions like Garmin, Google Maps, Apple Maps, all of them route cyclists that direction.
As a cyclist as well, I just like the common streets. The reason I do hit them a lot is because of not having to stop. Constantly stopping when I'm biking 10 plus miles a day it's a lot. And I know, cars want us to fully stop. And that's just, I think, part of the reason maybe they thought of putting it on busier streets.
Geneva, I guess I have a fundamental question. Have other streets been considered? I mean, to me, moving it over to Tejon, for instance, might make really good sense. And I get that having to stop every 2 blocks is a pain. I totally get that. But having no parking on Tejon, I think is just unreasonable. I had occasion to drive down Tejon this past weekend, probably 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, there were cars parked on both sides of the street on every block. And on many of the blocks, they were bumper to bumper and took up all of the spaces. So
Yeah, but is that residential? Like, is that people who live on that street parking their cars there, or do we actually know these are cars parked for business use only?
well, I think that it's a mixed use street. So there are people who live on the street, and there are people who you know, go to the businesses on the street. And yeah, Geneva, you'd have to answer whether we know who's parking on the street.
Regardless of if it's mixed use or residential, where are they going to park if there's no parking on that street?
Exactly. They have as much right as people going to a business.
Yeah, there's many of us parking on Tejon because there's no parking available in front of our house now, like on 35th.
And the other thing to consider is with the businesses, it is not just their customers, it's also their employees. I took my dog for a walk yesterday afternoon so I could take pictures of the meeting to show you. And the employees of La Casita and Lechuga, they park on the side streets too. Like, this is going to be yeah, I mean, it's in terms of, employee safety, if you're going to be pushing them further away from their place of business. And these are restaurants, and these people, typically, except for La Casita, they close at 7, but the other places close late. Like, and you're going to be making people walk further in the dark in poorly lit neighborhoods. It's a safety issue for those people as well.
I'd like to disagree as someone who's worked in the restaurant business for over 20 some years. At one point I had to work in Cherry Creek where we had to park really far. Most restaurants do not allow people, they talk to you about walking out in pairs. So maybe it could be changed to a parking on that street is only for a couple hours or for residentials. And then if you're like an employee, you would have to park farther away and then use the system.
Yeah, I work in the restaurant industry too.
Okay. I don't know if I've worked in several different restaurants in Denver, and typically the policy is to leave with somebody, to never leave alone, especially late at night. Last call is 11 now, so it's not quite as late.
I'm definitely making a note of that about safety for staff and some concerns not only of parking for residents and customers of businesses, but also business staff, and where are they going to go, and potentially they have to walk farther from where they're parking, concerns over that. And I also want to recognize that we have Councilwoman Sandoval in the room with us. Hi, Councilwoman.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I was late.
That's okay. We are just sort of round robin, listening to input.
The other thing I'd like to mention is, of course, Uber and Lyft are not a big thing right now, as big with the pandemic, but there are a lot of Grubhub and DoorDash. There's a lot of activity, I think, around the restaurants. Automobile traffic. We did get a delivery on a bike, which was kind of cool. But that's the other thing to think about with a bike lane. I just see there's so much stopping and starting and weirdness with drivers. That's one of the other reasons I stay off of the busier streets, is it's very unpredictable traffic. So yeah, we need to think about that, putting bikes and cars together like that.
I'd like to say that I think that the protected bike lane, it really works on wider streets where you're either narrowing travel lanes or eliminating travel lanes. But on smaller, narrower, mixed-use streets, you don't want to wipe out any on-street parking, because the on-street parking calms travel speeds, it protects pedestrians from the cars. And it's just an important part of the kind of ecosystem of pedestrian space actually in the city. And so I think it's mismatched to take the protected bike lane and put it on a narrower street at the expense of on-street parking. Where it might work is if you're just narrowing or merging the travel lanes and slowing that travel. So I just don't think it's a fit on this street, but we do want to accommodate regional movement of bicycles through the city. 35th Avenue works great. 29th Avenue works really good for really fit cyclists who are going at a higher speed. But I think the model is a little mismatched here on Tejon.
Yeah, so I mean, Tejon is the widest street in the area. I mean, I actually just crossed it walking the dog right now. I think, and the lanes you mentioned on 35th and 29th are great, but they're east to west running. And what Denver lacks is these north to south corridors, safe for cyclists, where we can link together various trail networks throughout the city. The city's great about, you know, Platte River Trail and all these little pockets of trails, but anyone who's out for more than a few miles really struggles to link between them. So I don't know where you do it other than Tejon because it is the widest street around.
So my question is this: is there the northbound and southbound would both have to be on Tejon, right? They couldn't be on another street like they do in Europe. One goes north and then another street one over goes south. I mean, this is already determined to be north and south on Tejon, right?
I like that idea of two different roads.
Have you looked at Clay?
That's interesting.
Clay's wide.
Right. Wider, I think.
Yeah, I think it's even wider than
Clay to Tejon is a decent, like over a half a mile, right? And isn't there another north to south closer to Clay? Julian? Or
Julian's west of Federal.
Uni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, in the community network, as we're focusing on that build out of a full network of bikeways, Clay is it's designated and planned for as a neighborhood bikeway between 32nd and 46th. And so if you don't know what a neighborhood bikeway is, it's just a low stress, low volume street. So we're trying to divert cars away from that and really prioritize people who are walking and biking. So yeah, Clay is a great street for north-south movement. I just wanted to make sure folks knew about that one.
Yeah, it's just not on the plans for any kind of dedicated or separated bike lane that protects cyclists.
What about Zuni?
I mean,
Zuni's too narrow and it's got way too much traffic at the south half.
Yeah, Zuni's too narrow and already has a white bike on it from the cyclist that was killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it connects to Spear and right there to I-25. It doesn't seem great. The thing about Clay is it's mostly residential street. It's a pretty quiet street and it's nice and wide. And, you know, even if a street like Shoshone is narrow, it's a quiet residential street. So that's why I don't understand why we can't figure out, you know, something that's quieter, that doesn't have so many businesses.
One question I had too was, for the same reason the cars are kind of there, are the cyclists actually cycling to the businesses on Tejon? And so they're going to be on Tejon anyways to try to get to Freya or Chicken Rubble or those spots.
Yeah, so I'm hearing definitely some interest in like parallel routes as possible, but then also if I'm understanding you correctly, kind of if people are trying to access the businesses, they're going to be biking on Tejon anyway. Did I capture that correctly?
Yeah, I don't see that many bikes ever parked in front of those businesses. You know,
might just be us.
Maybe it's just us. Ours are parked in front of Freya all the time, and the same as Mythology. Both very, you know.
Could just be us.
Could be us, just us though.
Yeah, I mean, I see there's a bike or two in front of Freya, but not enough to support the business. There's a couple, but it's not the same volume as drivers, patronizing those businesses.
Yeah. So kind of talk to me a little bit for those blocks between 32nd and 35th. Talk to me about when you all are seeing the most activity. And I could probably guess based on some of those land uses, but you all know this and you live there. What do you all see in terms of when it gets busiest?
Well, I see it a lot of bicycle commuting use of it towards the south in the morning and then coming back, you know, at 5 o'clock.
Yeah. Right.
I agree with that. And then I would say a lot of weekend use, Saturdays, I think people going a little bit, further out.
And happy hour time until through dinner time. It's
Yeah,
quite a bit.
There's a ton of lunch traffic to La Casita and Lechuga too.
Yeah.
Like, I see, people, nowadays standing out front waiting to go in, but there's also a lot of lunch traffic, weekday lunch traffic.
I'm sorry if you already went over this, but how are we going to connect to Tejon South to get to like the bike paths if we don't have the bike path on Tejon north of 32nd? How are we supposed to connect to that below 32nd? Like the bike path that runs by Linger and stuff.
Yeah, so that portion is also part of our study. We're just a little farther behind in concept development.
So I'm just curious, if we don't do it on Tejon, will bikers still be on Tejon though to try to get down to the bike paths at REI and such?
Well, because there's already a bike lane through there.
What would be more ideal though than that path right there? Or
let me offer a suggestion to answer your question. If the bike lane were moved over to Shoshone, when you hit 32nd, there's a diagonal street called Erie that connects back over to Tejon and would then allow you to go straight down Tejon, swing around onto 16th and cross the highway and everything.
You ever ridden a bike on 32nd? It's just not a good place to be on a bike.
You're not
He's
on
saying
32nd, you're crossing 32nd. And I live on 32nd,
okay.
So you're right on 32nd.
Okay, if you're only crossing, okay.
I'm trying to picture the stop signs on that, and I feel like it's really steep stop signs, if I'm correct, which are difficult especially going uphill on a bike when you come to that complete stop. Whereas you just have the one when you go down Tejon by Linger and such, or I guess you have two. But I feel like some of those streets, I don't know which ones are exact, but somewhere in that low-high section, some of those streets are really steep and very difficult for bikers.
And I just want to let you know, we are going back into the main room in about 2 minutes, 1 minute maybe. So if there's anything else, I found this really interesting, and thank you so much for taking the time. So if there's anything else that we want to chat about from that 32nd to 35th section, of course, I'm happy to listen now, or we can always follow up.
I have a question about the median, since you said that that is not going to be changed. How is the protected bike lane and median going to work? It just doesn't look like there's enough space.
Yeah, it's a good question. So in the concept, what we have, what we're showing is that the protection would drop just there at the median in order to fit it in. And so at that, we would be able to retain the safety for pedestrians crossing and also maintain a continuity of the bikeway.
On the part that's only halfway done, 32nd to 33rd and a half, is it protected there?
No, it's not. It is just a striped bike lane in that portion.
So it'd be protected for like half a block and a half.
Block and a half, yeah. 1 block. Yeah.
And then north of that, it would be fully protected.
I mean, is there an option to do a bi-directional bike lane on one side of the road? That way you're not set.
Just to note that everyone is remuted when you enter the breakout or the main room. So for our speakers too.
There we go. I think, welcome back everybody. If you came back, you'll be muted automatically. So if you need, if you're presenting or something, let me know. What we want to do now, we had a great chat in our breakout room, and it was really informative, and appreciated the civil tone and everything, and just good to get feedback. I think what we want to do is just kind of go around to the breakout room leaders and just get a quick high level take on, what the discussion was like, maybe a couple key issues, and maybe what's left in the parking lot. Like, what are some ideas that came up for us to look at? So why don't we start with Michael Koslow in breakout room 1.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so we had a chance to talk with a couple folks between 39th and 46th Avenue, Lily's Bath and Biscuits, the Highlands Health, and the Colorado Legal, I'm sure I'm going to butcher it, Defense Fund, and also a resident and on the corridor. Some of the things that we heard, despite the best of my hoping, there's very few patrons of the businesses that arrive on bike. In reality, there's a lot of needs for loading for the businesses. Obviously for a health clinic, folks would need to have the ability to be able to get to the business without having to go across the street, that kind of thing. Another issue that came up had to do with the maintenance of the bike lanes themselves. We kind of talked about, hey, once we install these as a city, we're going to have to plow them, sweep them, make sure that they are able to be used. And I think that's probably, those are the key 2 issues that we had in number 1.
Super. Thanks, Michael. And just so everybody knows, we're going to capture all these notes and share back out to everybody, so you'll be able to see what we talked about in every group and kind of get that full picture. So I was the leader of breakout room 2, which was 35th to 39th. We had a few residents and a few businesses there, and had I thought a really good discussion about the dilemma, or sort of I guess it's a dilemma, but wanting to have better bike facilities versus the impacts to local business and parking. The